first of all, congratulations to all the students in STM, this logistics school. First of all, to be here because I think you made your way to UUM, and I'm very proud of you, in fact, because we do not have that kind of opportunity to learn logistics in the 70s when we joined this industry. Okay, so briefly, an introduction about me. My name is Balakrishnan. I am in PKT since 1977. I joined as an operation clerk where in the 70s, before the implementation of technology, and we do not have the era of handphone, computers, and that is the time we actually started. So you can say that we have the best of both worlds. Before the technological era, where it was all manual systems, and now with the kind where I'm now sitting talking to you, you are all, I believe, in different corners of Malaysia. I think this is something really, really very, very interesting. It is very far ahead in these 40 years of my experience, and this is also one of my first few sharings on this WebEx meeting, which is like Dr. Kamal said, this is something very new. Of course, in the past, we were I've been to UM about 2-3 times in the past, and that's all about me. And I have 42 years of experience in this forwarding. I joined as a forwarding. Those days we call it forwarding. So forwarding basically covers, in Malaysia, it covers a very wide subject, customs, transportation, warehousing, etc. So without further delaying, I would like to present my slides, and maybe if you have any questions, I believe you can ask, or maybe I would suggest you can have your questions noted, and then maybe we will share during the question and answer session. Okay, thank you. All right. So you all can see the slides.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So this is our new baby in Batu Kawan, our PKT Logistics complex that is now under construction. Right. Okay. Coming to logistics, I would like to share one of our partners before we go into this subject. Dark matter of international trade. What is international trade? Of course, we have the domestic trade. Domestic trade is quite straightforward. All the goods or services are all exchanged, bought within the country. So the buyer and the seller basically are all in Malaysia. So that is not really a big challenge in the domestic trade, okay, because it is all confined within the country. But when we look into international trade, there are many challenges in international trade. In the experience of our industry, the dark matter of international trade is the customs expertise. That's why we say custom expertise is the engine oil of international logistics. Okay, if you can have a very good. All right. So in international trade, this is one area that is, of course, as a logistics student, you learn about warehousing, transportation, handling of goods, inventory management. Okay, but then this in the international logistics, we have the movement of goods. So this is where actually the customs expertise and trade compliance is very important in the sense that any overlooking or any issues related to this on these documentations and compliance of the custom may be very costly later. We have experienced our customers who brought in 500,000 tons of what you call steels into the port. But what happened is they overlooked that these steels are for construction. And what happens if these steels were not certified to Malaysian standard? So this should have actually been studied before this consignment brought into Malaysia. Whereas when this consignment arrived in Malaysia, it got stranded for nearly almost about 2 to 3 weeks, and the customer had to pay something like 1.5 million on demurrage and storage charges. So if you look into this, the preparation before any goods coming into Malaysia, or preparations before the goods leaving out of the country. So this is where actually in our department here in the customs brokerage and trade compliance, we provide this kind of expertise advice to our customers. They either they email us or they consult us with all this kind of requirement. They will present us what they're going to import, what they're going to export, and we will study on all these commodities, or the goods or the products that is doing. And we record. I believe the first slide is I've spoke about the custom expertise in the importance of custom expertise in the movement of goods in the international trade. Even though we can have a very good logistic system, but we need to ensure that the goods which is going to be imported and exported meet the compliance of the respective government agencies. Okay? So in my presentation today, I have 3 areas of custom expertise. I've divided into tariff barrier, non-tariff barrier, and facilitations. Okay, so normally our scope in the custom brokerage and trade compliance department is to help the importers and exporters. They do a lot of consultation with us before they move the goods in or out of the country. Why? Because, as I was explaining, we have a customer who brought a very big, large volume. It was something like 500,000 tons of steels for some industry construction, but they forgot to check on the safety measures or the restriction that was imposed on these steel materials. So this is where basically we assist our customers to furnish the information, or also do the necessary arrangement in terms of permits, licensing, and so forth, to ensure that when they import the goods, they meet all these criteria, that these goods are not delayed. Because for that customer, they pay almost about 1.5 million of storage charges because of this over negligence in looking into the requirements of the customs. Okay? So here I will look into 3 areas: tariff barrier, of course, where the country's revenue is imposition and collection of duty and tax. Okay, perintah duty, it is there, and basically the highest duty now is about 30%. In the 70s, it used to be something like 60% the highest duty, but now with a lot of competition, with a lot of agreements, duties are not so high. So the highest is now 30%, mostly on auto parts. Of course, foodstuffs are essential goods to make it available and make it cheap. So it is not really a very high duty unless it's a very luxury foods. Average essential foods are no duty and no tax. Okay, and then as a revenue for the country. So this is all basically a customs scope. In the 70s or before the 90s, we do not have the OGA to take care of the non-tariff barrier. But after the 90s, we had this non-tariff barrier. Okay, we will talk on that also. So to make the domestic market more competitive, so basically when you import the goods, they need to import certain goods, they have duty and tax. Certain goods, they do not have duty and tax. This is just to balance for the market supply. If the goods are available readily, like example, plastic wares. Plastic wares we have in Malaysia, we have a lot of industries. So the duty can be as high as 20%. Automotive parts, we have a lot of now OEM like auto parts, auto leaf, they are producing spare parts. So that parts are about 30%, so that the local parts can compete in the market. Then we have the next area, which is the non-tariff barrier. This and the non-tariff barrier, they are actually technical barrier to trade, and SPS as phytosanitary measures. These are basically confined in the custom prohibitions and restrictions. Perintah larangan import and perintah larangan export. I will talk about in detail in the later slides about this. So how do they control, for example, chicken meat? Let's say we have a shortage of chicken meat. Then what we'll do is the agriculture department, together with the DVS, they will increase the quota to import from overseas. Normally, those days we used to have chickens coming in from Thailand, China. Beefs we used to have import from Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, and so forth. So these quotas are basically to manage the imports of these agriculture produce, meats, and other products. Permits, example like automotive, you need AP. Okay, construction goods, you need CIDB permits, or some industrial goods, you may need SIRIM. So these are all basically to meet the Malaysian standards. Why? For example, if a construction goods or electrical goods or telecommunication goods, these are all on the safety aspect to meet the safety standards, whereby, example, your charger, the phone chargers, this must also they ensure that when we import, they all meet the Malaysian standards. That's why we have the SIRIM to test these products and ensure that they are labeled with the SIRIM labelings. Okay, so this is how we control this importation. So the overall the idea of non-tariff barrier is basically for the health, protection, and safety of human and animals and plants' life. Okay, so it is not only human, about animals. For example, when you import animal feeds, they also must be safe for the consignment for the animals. When we import plants, ensure that they do not contain pests and etc. Okay, then we look into the facilitations. Okay, facilitations are how the government through customs and the MOF, they support international trade and our local trade. Okay, we have the custom licensed warehouses, example, bonded warehouses, LMW, licensed manufacturing warehouses. They all provided facilitation to boost the export market. Bonded warehouses in the 90s were very popular. After the 80s, these bonded warehouses started to boom. Why? Because we wanted to compete with Singapore. Those days, we were very custom-oriented port. When the goods comes into Port Klang, you cannot export the goods out. Neither can you import. When you import, there's a lot of restriction, hassles. So to facilitate all this, we had this bonded warehouse which are located outside the port areas to store the goods temporarily for domestic supply or for re-export, relabeling, etc. Then we have the licensed manufacturing warehouse. These are gudang penghilangan berlesen, where they manufacture, they import raw materials, they do not pay duty, and they export the goods later. Okay, these are all to facilitate manufacturers and boost the export industries. Okay. Then we, in the 1990, we also had this free zone. This was a further enhancement from the bonded warehouse, where value-added activities Within the port, you can do many kind of value-added activities. Free zone, we have free industrial zone and free commercial zone. Also discuss that later. Then we have the free trade agreements. Free trade agreements are within the countries. We have the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement, the ASEAN-Japan Free Trade Agreement, ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement, ASEAN-Indian Free Trade Agreement. They have the bilateral agreements like Malaysia and Japan, Malaysia and Pakistan, Malaysia and India. These are all basically trade collaborations to ensure some competitiveness between the services and products. Example, if you import a product from China, there are some facilities where you do not need to pay duty. We call it the preferential duty rates. Instead of, let's say, the plasticware, instead of paying 20%, you pay 5%. Or for certain, like a spare parts, you can still import a spare part from China or Japan, and you don't need to pay at a 0% duty rate. This is actually between the collaboration agreements within the country, okay? Then we have the duty tax exemptions. Duty tax exemptions are basically where to facilitate in the event of you are importing temporary goods, or you are exporting, for example, currently palm oil and products were they have actually temporarily exempted the duty. So these are all facilities from time to time to support the industries, right? Okay, we as a licensed broker, what does it mean? Because we are actually licensed under Section 90 of the Customs Act 1967, okay? As an agent, must be licensed and controlled by JKDM, JKD Jabatan Custom Diraja Malaysia. So we are our license number is BF0015. Okay, so we are one of the very early forwarders who are licensed to act on behalf of custom. We are actually a broker. A broker means the custom do not have the manpower to actually overlook the whole regulation. So once we are licensed, we act on behalf of JKD. So we must ensure that the important exporters are having the proper regulatory control measures, make sure that the duty and tax, the correct duty and tax that we collect on from the importers and exporters, and that they are paid back to the government. Consultancy on custom matters, this is where we are licensed. Authorized to transact business relating import or export on behalf of the principal. So the principals are our customers, okay? So under Section 90 also, any customer who wants to import or export must appoint us officially, okay? Perlantikan, we call it, there is a unit, kawalan agent. So we need to submit together with the importers, exporters, their profiles, their SSM registration. We need to submit to the customs and ensure the business are legitimate, legal business. Okay, because sometimes in the past, when they don't control this, these importers can be fraud. When they import something, when they found out that they are smuggling, and then the customs cannot rate these people because they give bogus address. They do not exist at times when they found out this kind of smuggling activities and etc. So that is why now all the importers and exporters profile, checked, including their directors, and appointed, submitted to the customs kawalan agent as before we can act as an agent for them. So once the custom is approved, we are given a unique code that we can need to use during the transmission of import declaration, export declaration, or any other urusan, any other dealings with the customs. Okay, must attend course on matters related to customs and pass such examination. I'm sure you all as logistics student, you are very familiar because UUM is one of the panel under the academy custom, where the exam we have the khusus asas agent custom and khusus agent perkapalan, KEP and KEK. So these are the examinations. Basically, these are basic examination. Then they have also the executive and the non-executive. So in any company, for example, PKT, we need to have at the directors level, at the medium level, and the lower level that they ensure that they attend to these exams, courses, and then they need to pass this exam in order to be a custom broker. Okay. All right. So our scope of services: custom documentation, operation, and clearance. Custom documentations means import K1, export K2, K8. So these declarations are various. We have a various kind of declaration for various services. So we need to be well versed with these declarations. These are some are very technical. So we need to have that kind of skill to ensure that the customers, because any mistakes on our side can delay the customers' flow of goods, either import or export. If we have not given them the correct advice, then it may also affects our scope of services. Okay. Then we also have the bonded warehouses. Most of the there are many kind of bonded warehouses. That subject I will also I will talk in the other slides. Bonded warehouses are licensed custom warehouses where you are allowed to store the goods without paying the duty. Okay. In these bonded warehouses, it is totally managed by the owners of the warehouses. Either it's a public bonded warehouse or private bonded warehouses. Public bonded warehouses are owned by forwarders like us to keep many people's goods, anybody's goods, whoever legally imported goods. And the private bonded warehouses like IKEA, they only keep their own goods, like Nike or Adidas, they only keep their own goods. So this is where it is a kind of facility. Of course, we also provide transportation service. But if you look into countries like US, Philippines, the custom brokers do not involve into transportation services, warehousing services. They are only merely a custom broker. But in Malaysia, our Section 90, it's allowed as an agent, but we can also do multiple business as a total logistic services. So that is where it is very rare in Malaysia. You have a custom broker doing just a brokerage job. So it is not lucrative. So basically, we consolidate all these activities, transportation, warehouse, and other things as a complete logistic services. So as custom brokerage is part of the logistic services that we provide, in addition to warehousing and transportation and other services. Then we have compliance, advisory services, license and permit application. This I was explaining as before the importer or the exporter imports the goods, they do consult with us and we facilitate them with all these requirements, whether they need a license, a permit, etc., so that the goods do not get held up. As I was explaining, any goods that is in the port, we have 96 hours free time. Okay, so within these 96 hours, we need to clear the goods. Then you do not need to pay any storage charges or demurrage or detention charges. And the shipping lines give you about 5 days. Okay, it depends. Some shipping line, maybe because of your volume, they may give you additional 10 days or 15 days or 14 days or 21 days. It all depends on the volume. So we have a very timeline. We have a very deadline to meet to ensure that we clear the goods with the least cost. So this last part of the advisory service, license and permit, is very important because most of these customers, they do not they are not familiar with this kind of activities. So they do not want to, unless for very big company, they may want to go and do their licensing and permits. But most of the SMEs, they prefer to outsource these activities to us. For us, it's an additional product. Okay, it is consolidated together with other services. But we do not just only provide this kind of service separately. We provide as a total package, right? So this is all our current services. Okay, if you look into here, PKT as a forwarder and custom broker. So in Malaysia, I said we can consolidate all these services together in one, in a single package. So what we do is customer services. That is the first point of interaction between the importers and exporters, which are our customers. Okay. Then next we do the custom documentation and declaration. Of course, then the next we will do the port operations. Port operations is where either it is in the airport or seaports. Okay, we for PKT we have offices in Kuantan, Penang, and Port Klang, and basically ours is all consolidated services, or we do not really provide one single standalone services. We consolidate together. Then we have the freight forwarders, okay, where freight forwarders are basically expertise area will be to source for rates. You know, when you want to export the goods to, say, Shanghai, okay, there are many liners providing, so we need to negotiate and get the best rates. Sometimes the customers has an expectation. They have their ready landed costs. So we need to work towards their fulfillment. Some big customers, especially, they have very low rates. So in that case, we need to really log in and bargain for very good rates. So these freight forwarders here, they are mostly on international. They have a network of agents around global, because we need to have this global connection. Otherwise, if let's say a customer is doing goods export to China and we need to go until China to do the clearance, then we will have our network. Okay, of course, we do also have our branch like in Korea and Indonesia and so forth, and Thailand. But at certain places, we do not have our networks, our own base. So what we will do is our networks to handle on the other part of the country. So sometimes we in this case, we give them total logistic services. Trade compliance, this is one of the area where today we are very focused to custom brokerage and trade compliance to ensure whatever goods imported, exported met the compliance requirement accordingly. And the other one is a transportation. I'm sure you're already familiar. So I also understand you have the other course on the managing transport operations, where a lot of this, I believe, they would have covered. And finally, we will have the billing and record keeping. Billing and record keeping, we have the owners to keep our records until 6 years for customs. Okay? Any audit, for instance, customs, they also have a department called PASCA, Post-Audit Clearance Department. All right. Before the 60s or the 70s or 80s, the enforcement were very forefront. They were all based in the ports. And this is where it caused a lot of delay. To clear goods in the 70s may even take until 10 days or 5 days. Even the fastest, it would have taken 1 week. That was the timeline of the ease of clearing goods in the 70s. Towards 90s, when we went into technology, and slowly today, you can take the goods within hours upon arrival. Why? We can do pre-clearance. That means before the goods can come into the port, let's say the goods is coming into the port tomorrow, within 24 hours, the shipping lines do submit the manifest, and we can do a pre-clearance. Okay? We can do a pre-clearance, pay the duty and tax in case the goods do not meet any inspection or any other issues. Sometimes we cannot do pre-clearance because some of the containers or shipments need to be inspected by the OGA for certain reason. For example, agriculture product or foodstuff or meat, we need to, the health department need to inspect. So in that case, we need to wait for the container to be discharged before we can do the clearance. But for a normal cases, a standard, we currently have something like 95% of the goods are direct release. Only 5% of the goods are inspected. That is on the normal goods. Of course, foodstuff, certain foodstuffs need to be inspected, especially meat, fish, and other products. Why? They may have some mercury content, they may have, plants may have pests, etc. So this, we need to ensure that the goods are inspected. Other than that, today we can clear goods within hours upon arrival if we follow the trade compliance and the regulatory requirements are all in order. You can definitely clear the goods. Let's say if the vessel arrives at midnight and it discharged the good by morning, the next morning you are ready to collect the container out from the port. The same thing, you can export the goods within 8 hours before the vessel arrival, and you get your documentation done, and then that after the 8 hours the vessel arrives, your containers are loaded, the next day you are issued the bill of lading for your customer. Okay, this we synchronize the whole service as a total package. So PKT as a forwarder and custom broker. So custom broker, not only custom broker, as a combined service, right? Right. Our customer services scope is job file tracking. Now we're using some systems where we have a software to really basically manage this. All our jobs must be registered, identified, and traceable. That is why we need to have a job. Any small transportation, let's say a customer needs a transportation from Port Klang to Kuala Lumpur or Port Klang to say Padang Besar, we will open it as a job. Okay, that is our traceability. From a small job to a big job, let's say we have say 50 containers coming into Port Klang or 100 containers coming into Penang under one bill of lading. One bill of lading will be the reference, and we will open up a job file for that. So this is the scope of the customer service. The first interaction when they receive the documents. After receiving this documentation, the coordination of shipping documents. What takes place here? Basically, they compile, and then with the bill of lading, I will explain what is a bill of lading later when I show you the sample. So with this bill of lading, invoices, packing list, they will be compiled, and then from the bill of lading, there will be the vessel name, or airway bill of lading, there will be the flight number for our people to trace. For air cargo, normally we can track from the system. For the shipping document, because sometimes transit time by sea, I'm sure as a logistic, you know what is the difference between air transportation and sea transportation. Air transportations are basically on urgent and just-in-time goods, whereas sea transportation, the transit time may even take 1 week. It depends, like for instance, goods from Jakarta take 3 days. Goods from Europe may take up to 25 to 30 days. So you have a different transit time. So the coordinator will check on with the liners, or they will track from most of the shipping lines. Nowadays they have the tracking system where we key in a container number, or we key in the BL number. Basically, we can trace the shipment. So upon arriving, we need to get those, there are a lot of details. There's manifest number. These all, we need to get all these to do the custom declaration and for transmission. So this is where we have to pay some charges to the shipping agent, or for export, after export, we need to pay all those charges. We call it terminal handling charges, bill of lading fee. All this we need to pay to the agent on behalf of importers or exporters, and those charges will be billed back to the customers later. And then we have the notification to importers, exporters. This is where we liaise with our importers and exporters when your good will be coming, when your goods can be exported. Because some importers, they will have a very urgent, they may need the goods. So we need to be very focused and ensure that the goods, when upon arrival, we meet the deadline to deliver to our importers. The same thing, exporters. Sometimes exporters also, like especially during the COVID period, there were a lot of rush to export gloves, face masks, and all healthcare products. Everybody wanted goods to move fast. The same thing, everybody wanted face masks imported urgently. There were people communicating day and night during the MCO period, because it was very high demand, especially the healthcare products. So we need to really work towards fulfilling our importers and exporters. So what are the documentations basically involved in a very basic document in an international trade is bill of lading, commercial invoice, packing list, import-export permits if required. Not all the products will require import-export license, but majority, about a few of those products will require if they fall within a foodstuff or any other products, etc. Okay, then we have the FTA, Free Trade Agreement, as I explained. These are free trade agreements, sometimes we call the Preferential Certificate of Origins, like Form D, Form E. Letter of credit, especially when you export, you need what is a letter of credit? Basically, a letter of credit is normally issued by the importer's bank to the exporter's bank to undertake payment of for the goods. Okay, in the domestic trade, maybe your buyer can be in Selangor, within Selangor, or within Kedah, or within Penang, or or within interstate. So it's not a big deal to make and collect payment, because you can anytime drive over to Penang within 3 hours to collect your payment, or they can TT you the payment. But in international trade, the buyer and seller are all both strangers. Most of the international business, buyer and sellers can be strangers. They do not have any relation. A person selling a product in US and a person buying in Malaysia may not be related. So in this case, how do they protect the payment? That is where letter of credit. For example, if Malaysia want to export something to China, the China buyer's bank will open up a letter of credit to the Malaysian seller's bank, and the seller's bank will notify the seller that you already have a letter of credit in your favor, and you need to comply all these requirement. You need to use certain ship. You need to ship it within certain time, and this deal must be closed within certain time. It's all stipulated in a letter of credit. So this is important when we export the goods, because we need to state these letter of credit numbers on documentation, or even they may say there is no transshipment allowed. So we must ensure that the ship, we get a direct ship or whatever it is. So this is where all this documentation involves. Okay, here you can see a evergreen bill of lading. It is basically importer is Banseng, is a hardware company. So basically, they are importing goods from China. The goods are loaded in Xinjiang, China. And it is destination is Port Klang. So it is about 30 ton. There are about 1, 2, 3, 4 containers. Okay, these are hardware goods. Yeah, it's a glass wool blanket. So what is the function of a bill of lading? Is one of the most important document in the trade, bill of lading. What is the function of the bill of lading? The bill of lading basically have three functions. Important function is a contract of carriage between Evergreen and the exporter, Eco-Pack Glass Installation. It's a contract of carriage. Number two, it's a document of title. If you see Banseng Hardware Syndrome Berhad, it's the owner of the goods. So it's a document of title. Number three is a acknowledgement of receipt by the carrier. The carrier is Shimin. The carrier is Shimin. If you see the vessel name over here, if you can see my pointer. So it is a acknowledgement of receipt by the carrier to Eco-Pack Glasswool that these goods had been loaded on board. So it has got three main functions. And this bill of lading is an exchange document. But today, we have a Linus bill of lading, which is issued by carriers. That means it is directly issued by carriers. Then we have the what they call the house bill of lading. Freight forwarders like us also can use issue a house bill of lading. So the one I have showing you here is a liner's bill of lading, because I don't have the time, because that is a whole very a longer subject, so I can't really show you all the bills of lading, but I'm showing here basically a bill of lading issued by a liner. Liner means evergreen line. Evergreen line is the liner, their main line owners. So they have issued this bill of lading. So it has got three key functions. And this bill of lading is exchanged. This bill of lading has to be surrendered in Klang to Evergreen. It is issued from Evergreen, China, and we need to surrender it to Evergreen, Port Klang, in order to get our goods released. But today we do not really use original BL surrender, because it's very time consuming. We use some facilities called surrender BL, Seaway bill, or Talac release, etc. Okay, as long as the bills of ladings are issued and agreeable between buyer and seller. But in an LC, because in this trade, I think the buyer and the seller has got relation, so it is not under LC. They have relation. Maybe they are very regular buyer or they are very big buyer, so they are not so. Payment terms is not a problem between the buyer and seller. They are not using a LC in this shipment. When they use the LC, basically you need to have the original bill of lading collected from the bank, which is the buyer's bank. The buyer need to go to the bank and pay all the payment and collect the bill of lading. Sorry, that's for the bill of lading. So this is a commercial invoice, all right? So it is originated from China, and the goods is glass wool. Okay, if you see the quantities, one is a different spec of rolls, and these are the values. These are the values of the goods. So basically, it is loaded in 4 HQ. HQ means high cube containers. The difference between a normal GP container and a high cube container is it is 1 feet higher. It is 9.5 feet is the high cube container for the height, and 8 feet high, for the normal GP container. Why? Because these are stackable bulky goods, so you can take more goods. Okay, this is maximization calling. In logistic, when you want to save your cost, so you need to study about starving and maximizing your load. Okay, so it is very economical to load in a 4 high cube container rather than a 4 GP container. If you were to use a 4 GP container, maybe you may need to use another extra container because the height, the space is less. Okay. So this is a packing list of the glass wool. Why is packing list important? Because packing list, number one, yes, for the buyer to know basically what contents are in which package and etc. And the other one is for custom inspection or CIDB inspection or any other OGA inspection. Basically, they can look into what they really want to check. Okay, they do not need to open the whole container. It will be very costly. They can confine to certain specific item they are doubt or they want to really check. So a packing list is very important when for goods inspection by the authorities, for the buyer arrangement for inventory management, and also when the goods got damaged. Okay. These insurance and for insurance purposes, packing list and the commercial invoice and the bill of lading will be very useful for the claims during damage due to loss, accident, or whatever reason it could be. Okay, this is the permit. Okay, here we are flashing you a permit issued by the Agriculture Department. Of course, we have the MAKIS, Malaysian Quarantine and Inspection Services, MAKIS. MAKIS is actually under the Agriculture Ministry, doing the enforcement for Agricultural Ministry, for the Agriculture Department, for the DVS, Department of Veterinary Services, for the fishery. Okay, and so they all basically do the services for these agencies. Their job is to ensure that the goods are imported are safe. For in here, we have flashed to you the permit of a mango, importing mango. Why mango? You need a permit because mango is a agricultural stuff, and it originated from, if I'm not mistaken, this could be, should be from Pakistan. So whether they are the phytosanitary requirement, for biosecurity of the agricultural products, where the fruits or the plants, they do not have pests or any other disease. Because this kind of pests, if they are not checked or they are not treated properly at the originating country, when they come to Malaysia, they can easily destroy our other agriculture produce. Yeah, is it okay? I see some. Okay. All right. So
Okay.
yeah. So now I'm showing here a PCO, a Preferential Certificate of Origin. Okay, this is a free trade agreement between ASEAN and China. This is the ATICA ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement. So these are all the collaboration within the member countries to make their products competitive within the region. So for example, ASEAN China is within the we have 10 ASEAN countries, countries like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Brunei. Okay, and these are all the 10 countries with China, including Malaysia. So by doing so, when the goods are exported from Malaysia to China, our products also enjoy the same duty benefit. That means when we export the goods to China, you know, China is a very big market. Our product becomes very competitive in China. At the same time, when China exports the good to Malaysia, we also enjoy the preferential duty rates. So this is the preferential certificate of origin. Later, I will also explain between the difference between preferential certificate and non-preferential certificate. So this is a preferential certificate. And this one is basically Form D, which is issued in from Thailand. This goods is from Thailand. Okay, it is issued to Mac Food Services. So they are importing some basically some foodstuffs. So when we import this foodstuff from Thailand, Mac Food will enjoy the duty-free status, and same here, Banseng will enjoy a free duty status. According to the schedule. Of course, it's not all are zero, but majority of the parts, the goods imported from China, almost 95% is 0% duty. And for ASEAN is almost 99%, basically no duty. Okay, all are it's 0% duty. So if it is 30%, what happens is this importer will enjoy 0% instead of paying 30%. That is the benefit about this free trade agreement between countries, member countries. Malaysia have 14 free trade agreements, which I'll come to you later. All right. So once everything is got, we have to send our import declaration. Okay, import declaration is when you import the goods into Malaysia, we need to declare a document called K1. Now these documents are actually paperless, so you do not. We just printed some gazetted document here, but in actual facts, now it is all in A4 paper because it is we are using EDI, electronic data transmission, and it's all very electronic. So it is all paperless and it is in an A4 paper, but we are using prescribed form format just for your understanding. So you see tag data at once from Singapore is the exporter for this, and the importer is Asia Pacific. All right. Sometimes we always confuse that goods moving from Sabah and Sarawak is considered as export, but it is not actually an export. It's a movement of goods within the federation. So in this case, you can see it is there's a good moving from from Port Klang, and it is destination is Kota Kinabalu, and it is a car. So basically, the export, the consignor is Orient Sun Motors, and the consignee in Sabah is Hong Seng. So this is what we call a movement of goods within federation, and we do not call this an export. So that's why once it leaves by air or sea, we need to use a declaration for these purposes. Okay? So this is also a trade, sea trade and air trade between Malaysia and East Malaysia, Peninsular Malaysia and East Malaysia, which is quite, especially with the liberalization of the cabotage policy. Now foreign liners can carry goods between Peninsular Malaysia and East Malaysia to make it more competitive. Those days, the sea freight between Malaysia and Peninsular Malaysia and East Malaysia was protected under the cabotage policy, where only Malaysian carriers. So there was very few carriers, and the rates were very high. Now we have a more competitive rate. Okay, next is the movement of goods duty unpaid. I was explaining about the bonded warehouse. So for a bonded warehouse, basically when you move the goods between from the port to the bonded warehouse, you need to use a declaration called K8. Okay? K8 basically is the movement of goods without duty unpaid. Dutiable goods when you move out from the port over a free zone to a free zone. For a port to a bonded warehouse, basically we need to use a K8. And this K8 is covered by bank guarantee. Why bank guarantee? Because when the goods move from the port, which is the free zone, into the PCA, principal customer area, and it goes to a bonded warehouse or to another free zone, basically it is in transit. The goods are in transit. So to safeguard that the duties and taxes are ensure it is not lost in case if it is hijacked, smuggled, or damaged, whoever the transport, the customer need to pay the duty or tax to the customs. Okay, so it is always covered by a bank guarantee or a general bond. A general bond is an agreement by the customer to undertake to pay the customs in case of any loss. Okay, this is the movement of goods using K8. All right. So this is the most technical part of the custom declaration. We are talking about HS codes. HS code is a harmonized system under the WTO World Custom Organization in Brussels. 130 over countries basically are standardized using this method of classification. That means, let's say a car 8703 23, which is for the HS code for a car. If this car is exported to, say, Europe, the 6-digit HS code is worldwide, international. In Malaysia, we use 10-digit HS codes. Okay, in Malaysia, we use 10-digit HS code for a steel product, for example, 7326 909000, or in international is 7326 90. So some countries, they use 6 digits. Malaysia, we are using 10 digits in collaboration with other ASEAN countries. So because we are going towards the ASEAN single window, so we standardize it to 10 digits HS codes. So HS codes, they have a 98 chapter. If you have you all seen HS code book? Something like this. It's very thick, about 900 pages. There's 98 chapters from A to everything. There is a HS code. The computer is 8471. Your phone is 8517. Okay. Your textiles is 63. So there, everything is captured is in these HS codes, and there's a duty rates accordingly. So what products, like say if it is auto parts, is 30%, foodstuffs are basically 0%, etc. Okay. So calculation of duty and tax, okay, calculation of duty and tax has to be done, and then we do electronic data EDI of this document. Whatever document I show you just now were all electronically transmitted to the customs, and basically you have a registration here. You see here B10. This shows this goods has been moved from North Port, Port Klang. So basically everything has got and our duties are, those days we used to pay cash, and now for the safety and security and also good practice, duties are all done by bank, electronic EFT, no more manual payment. We have coming to a stage where it is almost less than 5% are only duty payments between the importer and exporter to the custom is manual. So we are going towards digitalization. U-Custom is now in progress. U-Custom is a new system where they want to integrate the OGA customs into a single platform, web-based. So we are looking at going into that phase, but we are still in the federal. Currently, our EDI, we are using a front-end software with the DagangNet and also Daran and this Skynet, Sealnet, and all these few companies who are supplying. But in future, we will move towards U-Custom. Okay. So our operations basically is to attend customs. We do attend customs inspection, PIO or OGA inspections. Sometimes the health wants to do inspections. Our operations is there. CIDB wants to do an inspection. Our operations are at the port or the airport, ready to support the officers to do the necessary inspection, because sometimes they want a representative for the importer or exporter to be present at the time when the goods are basically inspected. This is some of the requirement. So we basically representing our importers and exporters. Our personnel will be at that respective position when we plan ahead, one day ahead, so that the officers are there and our people are there together to do the inspection if necessary. Of course, the LCL goods means less container load. FCL means full container load. What is the difference between LCL and FCL? LCL means you have many small exporters consolidate into one container. Maybe you might have 10 or 20 customers because they don't have a bigger volume. They have a small volume. And then they consolidate into a small one 40-foot or 20-foot container, and the goods are exported and unstuffed at the CFS at the destination, and the various importers will collect the goods. Similarly, when the goods imported LCL, when we import, you might, let's say, goods coming from, say, Hamburg, Germany, okay? Maybe there are about 10 small importers from Malaysia. So they will consolidate all the goods in Hamburg, and when they come to the port, there is a CFS, container freight station. They will unstuff the goods into these container freight stations, where our operations people will trace the goods and take delivery of the goods. Whereas FCL container, the difference is there is only one single seller, one single buyer, full container. That means the whole, this is for big customers who got a big volume, they ship it in full container load. So I'm sure as a logistic, you are very familiar with the LCL and FCL cargo. We have only two standard size ISO containers, 20-footer and 40-footer. Then we have the high cube container and special equipments. Special equipments are containers that to load have a different volume of goods. Some are oversized or over height goods. Okay? And we also attend to the delivery, because when the goods are in support at a certain operator's warehouse, we need to create the gate pass, and basically the operator will collect some storage charges, etc., and then they will release the goods through a gate pass to our truck or lorry at the port or the airport. Delivery of FCL cargo is basically, those prime movers that is moving, whereas LCL cargo, we use a normal standard truck. Okay. We have the other source of where we are sourcing of import-export freight. We look for the best freight in the market. Big customers has got a better bargaining power, so our customers have a target rates. Sometimes some customers have a target rate because of their very strict landed cost. This is where we source our rates with both locally and internationally. We have our networks all over the world, global, and where sometimes certain goods need to be imported FOB or CIF. That's based on Incoterm. Incoterm is the risk and obligation between the buyer and the seller. So in what Incoterms they select, we move the goods according to the expected rate of the respective customer. Preparing custom manifest as a freight forwarder when we do a house VR. Before the ship, how do we know that the cargo is in the container? Basically, these are all reflected in the manifest. When a ship depart the country of origin, the liner will come out with a document called manifest. Similarly, when we travel by aeroplane, we have the passenger manifest. So in the sea freight, they also have the cargo manifest. This cargo manifest is prepared by the liners or the freight forwarders and submitted to the customer through a document called K4. K4 is import manifest. When the goods comes in from a foreign country, let's say container A, what is the BL number, what is the size, who is the importer, who is the exporter, it's all captured. And when we send our declaration, K1, it is a match to this K4. K5 is the export manifest. When we export our goods within 7 days, our agent, the freight forwarder or the liner need to submit the manifest to the customs to confirm what are the goods they have exported, and that will be matched with the K2 at a later stage, whereas K1 will be matched instantly. Okay. Then we have the K6, which is the transshipment manifest. This is sometimes like a Port Klang and Tanjung Pengarapan, PTP, transshipment ports. So what goods comes in is not for Malaysia, but subsequently it will be transit to another vessel for a different port. So these are all goods on transit manifest. So this very, especially for import, a freight forwarder need to submit the manifest within 24 hours upon the vessel arrival. For the export K5, the forwarder has to submit or the liner within 7 days from the vessel departure. K6 is the document need to be submitted 24 hours before vessel arrival, and subsequently for the outward is 7 days. So these are basically what we call the manifest. So this is part of the freight forwarders for the customs. Customs manifests are solely for custom purposes. Then booking of freight, as I said, once we sort, we do the booking, and finally issuing the house BL. Because here I mentioned is house BL because we as a freight forwarder, when we export the goods, we come out with a bill of lading as something similar to Evergreen, which we have shown just now. Okay. All right. Our last part of the whole process will be to compile and ensure all documents are complete in the file. Okay. Now we do not use a physical file, but we do a database. And these documents are to be captured for at least 6 years for any audit by customs or any authorities in case there is some. There are cases where sometimes within 6 years custom may come back and audit. They say these goods imported on this date. We need to check your invoices. We need to check your HS codes. There is something wrong, and maybe they may submit a demand note later. Demand to pay back the duty later is possible. That's where we need to keep these goods and ensure that when the authorities request, we are able to provide it on behalf of the importers and exporters. It is also the duty of the importers and exporters to keep the document, but as a freight forwarders, we are licensed by the custom. It is compulsory that we must have these documents with us. These are invoices for our services that we need to prepare and send to the customer. And safekeeping of records. Okay, safekeeping of records for 6 years as per WCO requirement. Okay, so basically just now we talk about classification. Classification is a very technical subject. A lot of, when you see the PDK, it is basically just a very general description. And most of we classify goods based on GIR, General Interpretive Rules. There are 6 rules on how you classify a product. And when you classify a product for the HS code, why the HS code is important? Number one, it will reflect what is the duty or tax you need to pay. Number two, it will reflect whether there is any prohibition of import or export. 2 important criteria in this HS code identification. Okay, what is the tax and duty you need to pay? What is the license or permit that is required, or whether you don't require any import permit. Okay, that is how this HS code, as I say, custom can sometimes reclassify if the custom broker has not classified correctly at the point of import. Because at the point of import, they do not want to debate so much. They just take whatever you have declared, but they will do the post-audit later. Okay, in the 70s, it is all upfront, not after. But now we do not want to do, because in international trade we have 10 million TEUs moving in the port of Portland per year. So it is they can't be checking each and every one, so they will base it later. Okay, here is the methods of product HS classification. If you look at the first picture, this is a live ayam, right? Hen. So it is under chapter 101. Okay, all livestock, whether it is a cow, a sheep, all livestock will come under 01. When you slaughter the chicken, it becomes a meat. So it goes to chapter 2. Okay, when you further process and add an ingredient but not fully cooked, it goes to chapter 16. Okay, and if you make it into a finished product, let's say chicken biscuit, it goes to chapter 19. When I say chapter, means the 2 first digit is the chapter, 01, 05, and 02, 07. So, and 02, 07, 14 is the, what you call the international code. So this is how we classify a product, custom expertise. This skill is very important to ensure that we classify this product. Example, for a chicken biscuit. If we classify in this chicken biscuit, basically no duty, no tax. But if you were to classify it into 1904 or somewhere, and you tend to pay 7% duty, the customer is actually losing. But at the same time, if you classify it wrongly, the custom is short collecting, is also no good. So we need to be very fair and ensure that whatever revenue for the government, we need to collect with the correct classification, and whatever the customer need to pay, they need to pay according to the classification. Okay. So basically, classification of boneless chicken breast. Okay, so how to classify a chicken breast? So basically, this is the Malaysian classify a product of a chicken breast, chicken meat. So basically, 02, 07, 14, 99, 00 is the Malaysian HS code, right? So there is a chapter, there's a heading, there's a subheading, and the explanatory of the section. So this is section 1 of live animal and animal section, 01, 02, 03, etc. So the first, this 6 digit is the international code. So this is 10 digit HS code, 02, 07, 14, 99. Yes. 02, 07, 14, 99. This is the HS code. And so here is the section 1, live animals and animal. The first one is the chapter and animal product, 02. Okay. Second is the heading, meat of poultry, 07. Subheading, 14. So 020714 is the international code. So basically, this is the 10 digit of the Malaysian HS code and 6 digit of the international code and the national code. Basically, national code is where you national code is where we will have the tax or duty difference. So if this product goes to any country, the 6 same digit will appear in all the countries. Okay, here's the classification, how you classify a motor vehicle. Interesting news. Last week you have the news that 100% of sales tax and for locally assembled cars and 50% on the imported cars. So when we want to look at the sales tax or duty or excise duty, this is where we need to identify the car belongs to which category. So here is a Peugeot car, which is a 1.6 cc. It has the chapter, heading, subheading, and you have the international code 870323, and you have the subheading, which is false for the SUV, SUV category 5110, and this is the national code. So quite a high technical subject. If you have, you can master the skill. Is very one of the very highly demand skill jobs currently because classification and for custom declarations, right? So students, maybe some of you will be in PKT in future. You are most welcome to gain your expertise on this area, right? Okay. Now we go to the facilitation, custom bonded warehouse, section 65 of the Custom Act 1967. Custom bonded warehouse are licensed by the customs for the storage of dutiable goods, unpaid, duty unpaid, duty unpaid goods. So you cannot place duty paid goods in the custom bonded warehouses. These bonded warehouse facility were created in the 80s when the ports were congested, and we also have Singapore as our competitor. We wanted to create an entry port business, import and re-export business. We created the bonded warehouse facility for the importers store the goods and make partial withdrawal. If, let's say, they import in, sometimes importers, when they buy in a big quantity, they can get a good discount from the seller. So in this case, they do not need the goods all at one time. They do not want to pay all the duty at one time and increase their, to reduce their cash flow. So what they do is they use the warehouse facilities to keep the goods and withdraw on a staggered payment by paying staggered duty as and when they withdraw. So the document they use is K9, but it is not shared here. And this basically helps the cash flow for the importers or even the exporters. Sometimes we have the LMW warehouse and they do not have a buyer. They can transfer the goods into this bonded warehouse and keep the goods for to be exported later. And then you can do value adding activity. So before in the 80s or 90s, we do not have this facility because we are solely a custom port. You cannot do an import and re-export from the port. Okay. So now you can, in this warehouse, you can relabel and then you re-export, you repack, and then you can also keep the, let's say the importer brings imports the goods, he keeps the goods in a bonded warehouse and he finds the buyer B and C and he sells it to in a smaller quantity to B and C. Okay, it's all possible. These are value adding facilities. Okay, what are the activity we can do in a bonded warehouse? Break bulking. That means you bring, say, in 100 box, and then you want to sell in pieces. It's also possible. Okay, especially now with the e-commerce, this is quite popular, right? The traders, they use as a platform, and then they sell in small quantities. Relabeling, repacking. You bring goods from, say, China, and then you maybe you have the marking of China. You can change it to Malaysian, but you cannot state it as made in Malaysia. One of the very strict regulation, it is very unethical if you import a good from China and you change the label to made in Malaysia. That is not allowed. You can say it is repacked in Malaysia, and then you can re-export it to, say, another country. But the origin country is still China. Okay, we cannot. That is a malpractice. If you change it and you state it that made in Malaysia, it cannot be done. Okay, unless a goods is made in Malaysia, we can say the labeling as made in Malaysia. If you import the goods from one country and you re-export to another country, the relabeling can say as repacking or etc. Okay, or you can say export from Malaysia, but you cannot use the word made in Malaysia. Entry port. What is entry port? Entry port is import and re-export. So this is a facility was created to support the Malaysian traders and industries as a competition for Singapore and surrounding. Facilitate this kind of activity in Malaysia. Okay, trading, you can either sell locally to a local buyer, because we have in our Bondi warehouse, this Japanese customer, he imports a big quantity of these resins, and then he sells in small quantity, 2 to 3 bags to the surrounding manufacturers, because they do not need to keep so much of resins, the buyers. So they take small quantity from our bonded warehouse. This all allow us to have a activity creation, products. Okay, types of bonded warehouse. Okay, basically there are 3 important bonded types of bonded warehouse. One is public bonded warehouse, gudang berlesen awam. Gudang berlesen awam. That means these are normally operated by freight forwarders to keep their customers' goods. We can keep any goods. Example, for PKT, we can store anybody goods in our bonded warehouse. Then we have the private bonded warehouse operators. Private bonded warehouse is where the importers or RDC, Regional Distribution Center, or GDC, Global Distribution Centers, they import the goods. Like, for example, IKEA is one of them in Port Klang. They are building a very big private bonded warehouse. We also have Daiso. In Daiso, what happens? We bring the goods from Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, etc. We keep it in here, and then we re-export, distribute to other global countries. Okay, these are all facilities. Then we have the Pekama Bonded Warehouse. So specially licensed to Bumiputra Motor Vehicle Importers Exporters Association. Here, if you see like NASA, they keep very luxury cars like Mercedes, Bravos, BMW or Ferrari, all these high-tech cars where the car duty can, McLaren, the duty can be as high as 1.5 million. So you just imagine the value of the car. So these are the where they keep these cars temporarily for nearly 4 years. They can keep these cars 4 years, and then they can find their buyers, and then they sell as and when they have the orders. So it facilitates their cash flow by keeping all these high-value cars in the bonded warehouse. Okay, this is what we call the Pekama Bonded Warehouse. Then we have the Licensed Manufacturing Warehouse, LMW. This is also under Section 65A. It's licensed by custom for manufacture. Just now is to store the goods here. They can, manufacturers who are export-oriented, who have a 80% export market or more, not less than 80%, they are licensed by customs to import all the raw materials, component, etc. They do not need to pay duty, and they can, it is to promote the export-oriented industries. They are very export-oriented industries. And similarly, these LMWs are created in rural areas, especially like Gebeng and these places, so that it creates employment and other activities. Okay. So Gebeng, Batu Berendam, they are all to create employment and commercial activities in the rural as to balance the development of the industry. Okay. Manufacturers licensed under LMW must export not less than 80%. So during the recession, the whole global market was less, then they reduced to 50%. That means 50% you must export, 50% you can sell locally. But currently, the ratio is 80% of the product you produce here is you need to export. Why? because all the material and component they import is tax-free. They do not need to pay duty tax. Okay, they bring in the component, assemble into a finished product, and then they re-export it. So they do not need to tie up with the cash flows. Any goods locally must pay duty and tax on the finished goods. Similarly, like you import the goods, if you buy the goods from this LMW warehouse, you need to pay the duty and tax accordingly. Okay. Then we have the 1990, after the bonded warehouse, Malaysian government was thinking, okay, we need to have something much better than the bonded warehouse. That's when they created the Free Zone Act 1990. I think this was one of the best also, but still need a lot of improvising, whereby a free zone is an area declared by the minister under the provision section 3(1) of the Free Zone Act, designed to promote entry port trade. The free zone comprises of a free commercial zone. So free zone can be divided into two. Free commercial zone for commercial activity, which include trading, break bulking, packing, labeling, and transit. These free commercial zones are within the port vicinity. Yeah? Whereas free industrial zone for manufacturing, where they can manufacture and 100% is export. Just now LMW 80%. For any goods produced in free industrial area, it is for 100% export, because they move all the component, the raw material, by using a K duty unpaid into this free zone, and then they after manufacturing into a new product, they export. Whereas in the free commercial zone, they import as it is, they repack, relabel, grade it, or relabel, and then they re-export it within the port. So these are all within the port area. These are all outside the port area and in the PCA area, but they are all gazetted free zone. So the good thing about in the free zone is there is minimal custom control and formalities. You do not, customs do not enforce too much into this free zone area. So who manage the free zone area? The free zone authorities. Free zone authorities are basically from the what do you call these state agencies, statutory bodies. Okay? They are the one who basically operates the free zones. An area deemed outside the country, even though they are in Malaysia, you consider that area as outside of Malaysia. So that is why we do not collect tax and duty, and there are very minimum custom formalities inside these free zone areas. Okay, so very soon in Bukit Kayutam, PKT will be venturing into ICD, which will have something similar free zone facilities at Bukit Kayutam, closer to the current border area. All right, so free commercial zone and free industrial zone. So free zone can be divided into two. One is the free commercial zone, then is a free industrial zone. Free commercial zone is all trading activities located within the major ports. Example, Port Klang, PTP. Only in Penang, Butterworth, BWCT, Butterworth Container Terminal is a free zone. The NBCT is not a free zone. And then in Pasir Gudang, Port Klang, all the South Point, North Port, West Port are free zone. Free industrial zone, as I say, is an export-oriented industry. Basically, only do manufacturing. Here, they don't do manufacturing, not value-added to amounting to manufacturing for free zone, free commercial zone. For free industrial zone, they need to bring the material and convert it into a finished product. So, example are Plentong, JB, Sungai Way Industrial Area, Bayan Lepas, Penang, Ulu Kinta, and Perak. Okay, these are all the free industrial zone. Okay, when we finish a free zone, now we come to free trade agreement. This is also the facility. Free trade agreement is agreement between countries to promote trade and services within collaborated countries. Okay, so we have bilateral agreement between two countries. Normally, it is between two countries only. Then we have the regional agreement between two or more countries. Okay. So Malaysia's involvement in free trade. So Malaysia have 14 agreements. If you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these is bilateral agreement. 1, 2, 6 of it is basically regional agreements. Regional agreements. So for bilateral agreement between Malaysia, Japan, Malaysia, Pakistan, Malaysia, New Zealand, so all goods within traded here are basically no duty, tax-free duty, taxable but not duty-free. And here ATIGA is ASEAN trade in good within ASEAN countries, the 10 ASEAN countries. Here ASEAN China, ASEAN Korea, ASEAN India, ASEAN A, we call it AA and Z. So this agreement basically is important. Why? Number one, if we export from this within this region, our products can be very competitive in these markets. The same thing in these markets, and the same thing, their product come into our country, it will also be competitive. So this is the idea to enhance and expand our market penetration, especially like China. China is a very big market. So it is not only we importing from China, we are also able to export to China, and our goods can also enjoy the duty-free status in that respective country. Of course, you have certain conditions to fulfill. Okay, right. So types of certificate origin, preferential certificate origin, just now I show you Form D, Form E, and etc. Issued by authorities under the FTA. In Malaysia, the issuing authority is PT. If you export goods out of Malaysia and it is 40% local content, the condition is the goods must have, when you produce a finished goods, you must have 40% local content in this product, and it basically in terms of material, manpower, etc. Then you have so they can enjoy the preferential duty benefits. Whereas non-preferential certificate of origin issued by Chamber of Commerce, no preferential duty benefit. So I'm trying to just show you what is the difference between PCO and NPCO. NPCO basically is for political and economical reason. For example, Malaysia, we have a restriction in one of we can import from any country except one country. I believe you guys know which country, right? It's Israel. So Malaysia has a trade sanction against Israel. When you import any goods from certain countries, you want to make sure that they are not from Israel. So maybe you may require a non-preferential certificate. Say someone export from, say, US, and then you want to make sure that they give you a certificate saying that it is made in US and it is not coming from Israel, or a goods coming from Singapore, because Singapore is a very good place where they all bring this country and then they relabel and re-export. So Malaysia has got trade sanction. Similarly, US got trade sanction against some of the Middle East countries like Iran, Iraq, and so forth. They do not want goods from such countries to go into US. They may require this non-preferential certificate. And this non-preferential certificate sometimes used to support for import-export permits. Okay? It may also be used for import permits. They may require this kind of certificates. Whereas this one is basically a preference. It has got a duty benefit. That's a difference between a PCO and a NPCO. So if you can see here, on the left is the NPCO issued by, this is a product from Sweden. There is no duty benefit in this certificate, but it just says that this product was basically from Austria. So if you notice, this was issued in Sweden. The goods they bought the goods from Australia, but it was exported to Sweden. So this is the ethical about it, that in this place, they cannot state it as made in Sweden. So this is one good example where the goods from Austria exported through Sweden, because Sweden was the distribution center or something. The goods originated from Austria. So when the goods come into Malaysia, our authorities will know that this goods is actually from Austria, exported through Sweden, and it was issued by a International Chamber of Commerce. Okay, this is a example of a non-preferential certificate. This has got no any duty benefit. Whereas you see on the right side is a Form D. Okay, basically this is a preferential certificate origin where the goods imported we do not need to pay duty by using this certificate. And if Thailand were able to be issued this certificate, this satisfies that the exporter GFT public company actually manufactured these goods in Thailand with 40% local content. Okay, so that's a difference between NPCO and PCO. Non-preferential certificate of origin, preferential certificate of origin. Many people always say certificate of origin, but in actual fact, there is two types of certificate of origin which we need to be aware. Okay, now we come to custom prohibitions order. So custom has got two prohibition order. One is custom prohibition order of export order 2017. Okay, under these, goods that are prohibited to be export except under certain condition. So like for example, you cannot export pornographic goods, or you cannot export CFC gas currently. So that's all totally. There are three schedules. Schedule 1 is total prohibition, larangan mutlak. Okay, the rest bersyarat. Second schedule, third schedule, third schedule bersyarat. Example, face mask. If you want to export face mask now, currently, one good example, you need to go to KPDNHP, Kementerian Perdagangan Dalam Negeri dan Hal Ehwal Pengguna. You need to get a permission from them to export temporarily. Why? Want to protect. We want that face mask is available in Malaysia at a good price. Okay, this is how the custom help control the economy of the country. Okay, then you have the custom prohibition order, goods that are prohibited from import except under conditions such as import license and permit. You have 4 schedules. Schedule 1 is larangan mutlak, which is you totally cannot import. Example, pornographic goods, weapons, weapons of mass destruction, etc., CFC gas. All these are harmful and can be used in terrorism. So we want to protect, ensure that nobody smuggles in. That's why we have 4 schedules. The schedules 2, 3, and 4 are basically with syarat. A condition, you can get permit, license, etc. Then you can bring in the goods. Okay, otherwise you cannot bring in the goods. So this is where the OGAs are here to control certain items under this second, third, and fourth schedule. Example, if you want to import a car under Schedule 2, Jadual 2, you need to have a AP, import permit. If you don't have an import permit, you cannot import the car. You cannot simply order a car just like that and bring into Malaysia. Okay, so that is to control. Okay, this is the duty exemption facilities. Our government also provide duty exemption facilities, exemption by federal government. Universities like UUM, UPM, USM, UM, you all are basically, when you import the goods, you all are for basically government purpose, for education purpose. All your equipments can be exempted from duty and tax. And some of the registered manufacturers, they bring in raw materials and they finish a product. To boost the manufacturing activities, they are provided a exemption on certain conditions. Temporary imports, exhibitions. Okay, when you want to bring for exhibition, takkan you want to pay the duty, right? Reusable packaging, containers that moving in and out. So basically, these are all exempted under the duty exemption order 2017. So the sales tax is similarly exempted for the governments and polytechnics, etc. And Schedule B, they got 3 schedules. Schedule A, Jadwal A, and B, and C. So taxable manufacturers can also claim the tax exemption when they import or when they sell the goods for trading for overseas market. Okay, and you have the sales tax exemption on first schedule, because some of the item, foodstuff, processed foodstuff like IT equipment, they're all 5% sales tax. So car is currently 5% sales tax if you are imported car, right? Since announcement by last week by the PM, so cars will have 5% currently. That's a temporary measure. Second schedule, lubricating oil and fuel. Any others, basically any product, other products, you pay 10%. So the essential foodstuffs is 0%. So this is where the falls under the sales exempted from tax order 2018. Okay. Now we go to the non-tariff barrier. How is non-tariff barrier managed? Okay, we have the permit issuing authority or the OGA. This is the same. Don't need to get confused. We normally refer them as OGA, but because they issue permits, they are called as permit issuing authorities. We have SIRIM to control iron and steel products. Why? Because sometimes the products that we industry, whether they use for the industry later, are they safe to be used? So they are tested, approved, and similarly telecommunication equipment, all this. CIDB basically they control on the construction related equipments. When the HS code falls under certain construction, example HS code 730890, it's all structures of iron, so they come under the CIDB. Like I said, that HS code for duty reference and also to find out whether there is restriction or permits. So CIDB basically control on construction. MTIB, Malaysian Timber Board, Malaysian Timber Industrial Board, timber products to ensure that the timbers are legally done, legally logging, and do not species. Timber also they have some endangered species which it cannot be done logging. So basically, MTIB and wildlife are basically to protect on the endangered species. Energy Commission basically on electrical goods, where you use the safety and security, especially your charger and so forth. They are all within the standards, or they are all safe to import, okay, into Malaysia. Department of Agriculture to ensure the agriculture produce are safe for the plant life, whether they are free from pests, whether they are free from some mercury content, etc. Same thing like health department, honey. You know, honey. Maybe we do not know that honey. Honey has got certain content that is harmful. So basically, they need to see when the product is imported, it is safe from this kind of content. Meat product, because nowadays, meats, livestock, they want to slaughter fast. They have all these kind of chemicals, so they ensure this product do not contain all such harmful products. Okay. So this is the other government agencies, all the relevant people, Suruhanjaya, MITI, they are all the OGAs or the permit issuing authorities. If you see health department, say honey, fish, especially crustaceans, udang, crab, they may have toxic content, mercury content, okay, kacang, right? So this basically the medication all comes under FOSIM and Food Safety and National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Authority to ensure that this product we import are safe for consumption. FCMC IT telecommunication. How many of you having a handphone without the FCMC logo or SIRIM logo? Basically, so your phone may not be safe or your phone is not legally imported. Okay, so you need to check on these telephones, communication equipment, computer parts. They are all within the standards when these products are imported. Okay. Then you have the electrical plugs and everything. If you see those labels, okay, this shows that these products are certified and safe for use when they are imported. So basically, we need to go for this kind of inspection by SIRIM. DOE, waste. Okay, this is one, I think the former Minister of Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change, YB Yo Bi-yin. If you all have read the news, there was a lot of containers, about a few hundred containers were detained in the port because of dumping of e-waste and scrap metal. E-waste and scrap metal can be imported with certain conditions, but some countries, they use our country as a dumping ground. So there was many containers held during this period and were rejected and returned to the origin country, because we have the Basel Convention in 1989 on the dumping or the import and export of the e-waste, electrical and electronic waste. Even when your computer, if you think it is a use and you export, it is basically can be toxic if it is not. So even like publishing materials and books and magazine, no pornography, no religious extremism, etc., are checked by the Kementerian Dalam Negeri agencies. CIDB, SIRIM, this is how they inspect the containers in the port. They take the samples and then they go and do the testing. And before they release the goods, once it's tested, and then only the containers can be released for consumption. Makis is a Malaysian quality assurance agency, where they are to ensure that food quality of the agriculture product, meat product, they are inspected, tested, and released once they are safe for consumption. So they do inspect, and they also will do the testing and safe. Sometimes, like for example, SARS breakout, there was about 30 to 40 container. The Department of Veterinary hold up because the ship sailed after the SARS break. SARS was related to bird flu and so forth. So the chicken meat were not safe for consumption. We need to dispose those containers because of the epidemic during SARS. And even now, because of the COVID, a lot of goods origin need to be irradiated. They need to do some radiational tests and so forth. Okay, KPDHP is basically about child, even toys. When we import, you must see a MC logo. Or when you use your dry battery, make sure you have the MC or KPDHP. Ensure that your batteries, dry cells, or the children's toys are safe. So we need to do a testing, and we need to get a certificate to ensure that toys are imported in accordance. Okay. So you may wonder how these products are actually controlled. So here is the flow of import of a full flow FCL container. And if you see the documentation preparation is where I have explained all our K1 and whatever it is. And if you see on the B section, custom clearance and technical control, TIA item 9 and 10 is related to these government agencies, or because they need to inspect and release through the system to the customs. Only then custom will release the goods. So custom takes care of the tariff barrier. The PIA and the OGA takes care of the non-tariff barrier to balance this thing before the goods are released for the market. Okay, this is how we control. So at this point, all the goods, whether need to be inspected, whether you have the permit, whether you have the phytosanitary certificate, is all done at this point. Okay, so this whole thing is under a system called System Maklumat Custom, and they are all linked. Okay, and when for the export, if you see, we have at this point where the PIA will enforce the control to ensure that what we are exporting is respectively within the compliance. Okay, so with this, I finish my presentation, and I hope as our boss philosophy, I end this presentation. And I hope I think some time for you to ask questions. So can I leave it to the floor now?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bala. Again, thank you very much, Mr. Bala. I think
Yes, welcome.
very informative session. Most of us, we have learned a lot from you, and some of the things that you taught us is not being taught inside the class, and this is very fresh.
Okay.
And I believe students are very happy with this session. All right, I think I'm going to pass the session to the students that to ask question. Anyone from the viewers want to ask question, please? I open the session to you guys. You can ask question through directly through this a verbal question, or you can write the question through the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. But we have a chat at the right side of the of this WebEx.
Hello, can I start question?
Yeah, please. Tengku Tihani, is it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So early the speech of by Mr. Bala said about the lesson by custom, the need of the license by custom. There are plenty of type of license. Okay, so in the Trust have provide a seminar agent kursus agent by custom. Okay, I just want to ask, is it relevant to student to take it during in the because Trust just deal the kursus to just for 500 ringgit only instead of 1,000. Is it relevant to student to take the agent kursus agent custom ni for future?
Okay, this kursus agent custom is basically as an additional credential for you if you are going to be involved with the logistic industry that is actually more related to custom matters, especially if you are going to work in a shipping agency or freight forwarders like us. If you are going to work, that will be very useful, and it is compulsory also. But let's say if you are going to be in some other logistic industry where you are in a manufacturing logistic industry or other supply chains, I would say that it will be additional knowledge. So it all depends on where you are going to be employed later. But this you can also take later when you join the respective industry, because the courses are always given every month. They organize this kind of courses, and it is quite readily available later. If you think you join an industry, say for example you join PKT, Tengku Tani, who knows? So maybe when you come into PKT, then you will feel that this is important for you, and we will send you for that kind of courses. Normally this is HRDF claimable. But now as a student, you take, maybe you need to pay, and if you can afford it, you can go for it. So it all depends on where you're going to be, because which supply chain and logistic is very wide. At which point, like the expertise or the skills that I'm explaining, at which point it may be required, I wouldn't know, because it is very wide field, supply chain and logistics. So if you are going to be a direct relevant client, like for example me, I'm in custom brokerage and trade compliance, this definitely I would say all my staff have gone for this kind of training.
Oh, is it this a one step closer to get other specialties in custom license?
Yes, when we renew our license, it is compulsory that our staffs gone through this KEK course and passed. It's compulsory for us, yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bala, for the explanation. Thank you for today.
Welcome. Thank you for the question. I have also a question from Shamira Zainul. What are the biggest technical challenge running in PKT during the custom process, which is related with system and data? So very good question. And how PKT overcome the challenges? See, these technical challenges is an ongoing affair. It is so we are actually improvising. We are investing a lot into these softwares to meet these challenges. We are also having this. We are also now working towards custom. So we need to keep up with this kind of changes. Challenges are still there. where some customers are small SMEs, they do not click or fall back into these requirements, but somehow we have to educate them that they sooner or later they need to come on this digitalization progress, and we help them to register into all these kind of as an additional step, that so that they are still, they are supported rather than they got left out by these technological challenges. So we do help SMEs, we advise them, but if they cannot perform, we work on behalf for them, like the licenses permit. They found that this is very technical, so we support them. That's our additional service. We give them the kind of service to comply. So even though they can't do it themselves, so they do outsource to us also. So this is how we really actually overcome these kind of things. I hope I have answered you, Shamira, Zainul. I have another question here. Sir, how PKT tackle the challenge of COVID-19? What are the PKT logistics? Okay, actually, I'm not part of the COVID team here, but as a PKT, we during the MCO1, we have almost 50% non-staff only presence. Most of us were working from home, and then towards MCO2, MCO3, we progressively moved in as and when most of our customers got the permits to work from MITI, and with the RMCO now, we are also fall back to the SOPs as highlighted by Majlis Keselamatan Negara. So we have our temperature check, we have our visitors control, on the face mask, using of face masks, sanitizers, it's all placed in all floors. We are also sanitizing regularly on all these our areas. So this is basically how but then we also have the other part of the challenge was the essential good and non-essential good during this period. What happened was essential during MCO1, essential goods were only allowed to release. So non-essential goods started to pile up in the port, and during the MCO1 and 2, there was 2 or 3 days of relief period. What we did is we helped our customers, and some small customers, they do not want to open, so we transit all these goods to avoid incurring heavy costs, and then we move it and we stage it in our warehouses. So our warehouses were actually almost full. I would say full, in fact, overflow during this COVID period. Okay.
Mr. Bala, prior to Shamira's question, there's a question about IoT advancement and 5G development. If you can read the question.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that. Thank you, Doctor. Sir, with current IoT advancement and 5G development, do custom brokerages still relevant in future? Is possible this job will be replaced by AI system that currently done? Very good question. Actually, we are into AI now to manage the PCO's preferential certificate of origin, because we have Daiso who have got 20,000 SKUs in the warehouse, and when we are doing something like import and re-export, so to generate these PCOs was a very big challenge, because we do not know how to manage the inbound and the outbound. So now we have actually engaged AI. We are already 50% into applying this artificial intelligence in managing this preparation and generation of these PCOs. Yes, and sooner or later, we will also, with the U-Custom, we will also as a possibility that our cargo movements will also be using through apps tracking for goods release using apps and extra. Yes, this is something is in the move, but I'm not really sure what is IoT. Sorry. Or Internet of Things. Okay.
It is Internet of Things.
Okay.
It's combinations of internet and the sensor technology. For example, that if you see the refrigerator, right? There is a mobile phone connected to the refrigerator, and you can know what is actually the stock level from all these things inside the refrigerator. There's something like this. It's a combination of sensor.
Right. Thank you, doctor. Thank you for the explanation. Yes, we also are looking at the like container tracking through these digital seals and so forth. There's some gadgets that is also now being introduced where once you fix, you can track these containers right from the origin until the delivery point. Yes, these all Arif, we are definitely during your time, it will all be stage by stage implemented. Definitely Internet of Things and 5G is into it, definitely, yes. Okay, there is I hope I'm not missed. Okay, there are challenges having with forwarding company that sometimes having long queue at custom clearance. It is caused from other agency or the system that used by custom during the clearance process. That's a very good question. In the 70s and 80s, as I was explaining, it takes a week or 10 days more to clear our shipments because that was very manual period. Okay, I have the experience during the manual and now the technological area. But now, unless sometimes they have this migration from one process to other process, this is when sometimes we have this technical glitch, and then but then custom have the fallback procedure to overcome these issues. So custom or having long queues is maybe you are referring to the cross borders where they are maybe certain times they have operasi, where they need to check certain things thoroughly. So that's when if you ask me in seaports and airports, we do not have a long queue. I would have to tell you this because I have the experience of getting some custom clearance in other countries compared to our regional Indonesia or Thailand. We are really far ahead. I would have to tell you, thank you for the custom, because even in Indonesia today, they takes about 5 days to clear the goods. In Malaysia, we really don't, I don't see, maybe it is one of things that happen on and off due to some system issues. Or other than that, I don't think we have a very big queue at custom clearance. Yes. Hope I've answered you, Reza Iskandar. Thank you.
Right. Is there any other question? Mr. Bala, during this, COVID, there's a lot of online session actually, virtual session with the students.
Okay.
Maybe face to face, they're afraid to ask you a question, but when there is a chatting there, you might receive unexpected and bombastic question from the student.
Good. That's they're very creative.
All right. Is there any other question from the viewers?
Doktor, boleh
Yeah,
tanya?
Okay. Over to you.
Okay. Hello, Doctor, and hello, Mr. Bala. Okay, I'm just going to ask about the PKT, right? So, right now, right, the company is having received what we call BOL already by paper, right? Or the company already have using the system like blockchain and so on. So will the what we call is PKT will upgrade or improve their what we call efficiency in using like more about the technology of blockchain and do the paperless because when the IR 5.0, most of the company in the world right now is what we call it, using the blockchain more on. So because we got more efficient and the data will not be lost. Like when you go to the port, the ship will send the paper of the already, and some of it is not original, and it will what we call delay the shipment of the ship. So how PKT ensure that what we call the bill already or the bill will what we call sufficient or arrive at the right time and arrive at right. That's all.
Okay, thank you. You are Mr. Sorry, I didn't.
Mr. Hafiz. Okay.
Mr. Hafiz. Doctor, you have a lot of very high-tech students, I think.
This class is the transportation information system class. So
Okay, good.
IT actually.
Okay, Riza, I think your question is a very good. Okay, bill of lading, as I told you have a 3 function. Nowadays, bill of lading is electronic already. Very rare we use as a manual or physical bill of lading. So that's why we have a surrender bill of lading, C-way bill of lading. So by using this kind of bill of lading, we do not wait for original anymore. As long as they have done a telex release or they have done a C-way bill, automatically we just get an email or whatever it is, and the liners will release the goods. Unless the goods is through a letter of credit, as I was explaining, the buyer and seller got in relation, there's a payment issue where they are going through the bank, then yes, the document will still need to go. But nowadays it's getting less and less because with the technology, we see very less people using LC because maybe the payment system, the electronic telegraphic transfer is all have improved a lot. So the level of using a LC is almost less than 5%. So 95% are all electronic release now. So we are going into that era. So we are no more using a physical, because those days they will courier the bill of lading and the bill of lading get lost, and that's it. Everybody gets delayed. You pay the storage, demurrage, detention charges. So nowadays we do not have. It's mostly about 95% of this bill of lading is electronic based. It's electronically transmitted and electronically released. Okay.
I just want to add on this blockchain technology. I think for all you know, this blockchain technology is being widely used in the financial system, especially the digital currencies. But there is an effort by those software companies and those big companies, they're going to implement blockchain technology in supply chain management to increase the security, especially when we talk about these, custom documentations, and the clearance, because all these informations that need to be really secured and confidential.
Right.
I just want to add to what you have mentioned.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Over to you, Mr. Bala. Yeah.
Okay. Right. I have one question from Chin. The development of some new is successful. Will it affect logistic employees such as layoffs of staff, and will labor be replaced by new technology? Yes and no. Yes. With the new custom, especially, we have currently we have about 10 to 15 operation people in the port. When new customs comes into place, basically there's no more going to be it's going to be a faceless interaction. So we don't know what will be the role of the operations in another 10 to 10 years or 5 years time. So like India, yesterday I was reading faceless customs. They are also starting a faceless transaction. So people are going into where new custom, our operation will not need any more custom officers. The custom officers will be either in Putrajaya or Cyberjaya, and everything will be managed electronically. If there's a query, it will be electronically transmitted, and then it will be answered by us. So yes, you will have some areas of it will be obsolete, in future, and maybe that place will be replaced in another area where other areas where the technological expertise is still required. So it's a balancing, I think. I would say yeah. You will create another new area where you will be required there. So not to worry, don't worry. There is still opportunity there. Okay, there is a question from Zuhairi. Is it possible that logistic company can deliver an item using drone or robot in the future? Is PKT already planned for this technology? Frankly, no, I have not think into this. we have not really gone into that. And basically, I'm also not an expert to really comment on that area. I'm more on the trade compliance and customs. But looking at all these developments taking place, it is a reality in future. Definitely, it's possible.
It's going to happen soon, huh?
Yeah, it may happen soon. Yeah, it will happen. It will happen. Maybe we are all already pensioned, retired already. Not going to look. That is your error. All the students currently. That's their error.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's their error.
Good questions. Maybe you can ask more on the related to this expertise in area. You have any doubts?
Okay, yeah. I think, maybe at one session we can have that. All right, there's another question on that, Mr. Bala. Nafis.
Nafis, Ruslan, I saw some numbers and alphabets outside container number body. What is the refer and the function of the numbers? Very good question. Okay, these container numbers are very unique numbers. Okay, there is a 4 alphabet like MAEU or TEXU or something like OOLU. Okay, this refers to the owners of the container prefix. We call this container prefix. So this number is a unique. That's the only one number registered under that compass. So basically, there is an international body where these containers are actually monitored, and all the history and tracking is with these numbers. So currently now, if liners, if you see, you can trace the location of the containers through these numbers. So these numbers are unique. It is registered by the I can't recall that agency who actually registers all these containers, similar like what we register our cars with the JPJ. These containers are registered with this regulatory body. So they basically gives this unique number, whereas the prefix belongs to the owners. There is two types of container ownership. One is the containers owned by the liners themselves. Then the other containers like CRXU or TEXU especially, these are owned by leasing companies. The liners, sometimes they have, a different period, supply and demand will increase or decrease. So during the period of surplus, they lease these containers from these companies, and then they will return it later when there's a low demand. So the liner companies don't keep too much of equipment. So during the overflow, they hire these containers. So these containers, the intention of this is to track the number of the container and the owners of the container. It has got a meaning, definitely. And that is the best tracking method now currently for port as well as for shipment tracking.
Okay, Mr. Bala, I think we have to keep up our time.
Okay.
We can have two last question from Banu and also Arif. Okay, maybe can you just follow up the question?
Sure. Okay.
Question, yeah. Thank you.
All right. So first question, Banu Priya, what is the constraint authorized third parties for form custom broker functions? Okay, if you are, there is no possibility that the third party can perform a custom broker function, provided he is acting like a middleman, then possible. But if he wants to act directly with the customs, it is only the licensed brokers can do it, because you are licensed and we have our registration number and etc. Maybe sometimes, there is a lot of middlemen who engage the service of these licensed brokers. So that is also possible as long as the responsibility is still on the licensed broker. He is representing another unlicensed broker. So this is actually a service only. So it's possible, but definitely the unauthorized person cannot attend to any custom matters. It is not possible also with the technology and all the EDI and so forth. Okay. Then we have Ari Puyat. Sorry, so one more question. In line of work, did you ever done an error in compliance that you can use it as future reference? Not many, yes. Human errors, yes. Wrong classification. Found out that first we taught this, and then so happened. So we also learn from whatever I've been explaining to you. I'm also learning from all my past mistakes also. So definitely, yes, you can have classification error. Sometimes you can overlook documents. You can have we may have overpaid duties. We do have underpaid duties. It all happens. It's possible, huh? Right. So I've answered the question.
All right.
Right.
Okay, maybe one last question, because someone asking about this global pandemic, COVID-19, opportunity for PKT. Maybe I can receive this one last question from the student. Over to you, Mr. Bala.
Do this pandemic present opportunity for PKT? Yes. Yes and no also. Yes, opportunity is all our FMCG, essential foodstuff customers. Suddenly there was a spike because orders, especially our e-commerce, because many people were on MCO, so they were all at home doing a lot of ordering a lot of online. So our warehouse was very busy. Our platform was very busy during the COVID period, during the MCO period. That the orders were overwhelmingly and our customers like those restaurants, customers, they were having quite a busy time in importing their goods and clearance of goods. But we also have the other side of the issue was we has also a lot of downfall on our automotive importers, and where they were all non-essential, they were closed for some time. So I would say it's more of a balance only, right?
All right. Okay, I think we come to the end of the session. All right. Well, I think I would like to deeply and sincerely to express my deepest appreciation to Mr. Balakrishnan for this informative and very lovely session with you, and also for all the students for your active participation. Now, I would like to thank you again, Mr. Bala, and the students. Right. Hope to see you again, Mr. Bala, in the next session. Maybe you can organize another session with you.